What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to the SFS channel. My name is Gavin, and today I have my weekly waiver wire ads video, but today I'll be doing things a bit different than normal. I'm going to be going over just my top 5 must ads for this week here in the Level 2 Fantasy Football Playoffs, because as we get deeper and deeper into the season here, the player pool starts to thin out a bit and there's less names to go over. So just going to give you guys my top 5 this week, but some very important players I think can really contribute to teams here down the stretch. As always, if you guys haven't already, make sure to go down and join the SFS family by hitting the subscribe button and turn that bell on so you guys are notified whenever I come out with a new video or go live for a fantasy Q&A. So let's not waste any more time. Let's hit the intro and get into my top 5 must-add players for Week 15. Alright, before I start off today's video, I thought I'd show you guys my unofficial SFS merch here. It's not available for purchase just yet, but if it's something you guys are interested, let me know in the comment section below. It's something I can look at here going into the offseason. But my first must-add player for this week here in Week 15 for the second straight week is Cam Akers, the new leading back for that LA Rams offense. And Akers is a very explosive player who is a league winner here, owned at just under 60% of ESPN leagues. Akers in Week 14 had his best day as a pro. He posted 29 carries for 171 yards and 2 added receptions for 23 yards through the air. And Akers is a guy here going forward with an extremely high ceiling. He did not even find the end zone in that game with nearly 200 yards from scrimmage and still put up great fantasy numbers. So Akers here down the stretch is a league winner. This guy, like I said, has huge ceiling, and the schedule coming up is very favorable for that Rams offense. In Week 15, the Rams host the Jets, and I think that is a very favorable matchup for Akers here, as the Rams are clearly the better football team and are going to control the time of possession and a big lead in that football game. We saw the Seahawks absolutely blow them out of the water, and obviously New York does not have a win yet this season, so I think the Rams will dominate, like I said, and Akers will get a lot of touches again in that game. Then in Week 16, the Rams travel to play the Seahawks, and I think for a team that matches up very well offensively and defensively, the Rams should have a pretty good shot at staying in this game and even dominating in certain facets of it. So Akers, I think, will have another productive game in Week 16 there. And then in Week 17, for teams that have not finished off their leagues yet, he has the Cardinals, who are an average team defensively. So I think that is another good option for Akers to be in lineups. Next up on my list, I've got Jalen Hurts, the new starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. And this week, Hurts finally gave that football team the juice and the energy and that positive play and production on the field that Eagles team has been waiting for all season long. Jalen Hurts absolutely dominated and was a complete flip of the script from when Wentz was in the lineup. The careless turnovers came down, the offensive efficiency increased, and running the football was actually an option for this football team this week, as Jalen Hurts had over 100 yards on the ground, and so did Miles Sanders. And for a guy who has been waiting all season long, I actually said quite a while back that Miles Sanders was a guy to keep an eye on as the first player to cross that 100-yard marker against the Saints. But lately, I've kind of fallen off the Miles Sanders train, but that's besides the point. Now I'm back on him here with Hurts at the helm, but Jalen Hurts has completely turned that football team around, and they are looking like a scary group going forward. Obviously, upsetting the Saints is a huge deal, and that is a very good football team, so Jalen Hurts is a guy I look at as the next leader of this football team here down the stretch, and a guy who has given a spark to that offense. So 167 yards passing and a touchdown, decent numbers in your first start against a very good defensive unit. And then what I really love is 18 rushes for 106 yards on the ground, and Hurts really looked like he could be a very dynamic rusher here down the stretch, and I love his upside and ceiling here as a sneaky guy that can go out there and win some leagues. Week 15 at Arizona, a defense that can be exploited, and then Week 16 against the Cowboys, another game I think could be a very interesting one for fantasy. With the Giants loss today and a huge Eagles win, this team is certainly not mailing in their season, and they are trying to win football games. This team is rallying around Hurts. The run game has gotten going, and like I said, those offensive weapons in the receiving game could as well. So Hurts down the stretch here, a very dangerous lineup play if you're going against him. So I would be quite nervous if you see him on the opposite side of your fantasy matchups. I think this guy is going to make a difference in some leagues. At my number 3 spot, I've got DeAndre Washington of the Miami Dolphins, and this one is a very simplistic ad for me. I think with Myles Gaskin being out due to COVID right now, if he is forced to uphold that 10-day window that players are normally asked to withhold, I think Washington has the opportunity to start next week. Obviously, he had a very modest performance in Week 14 here against the Chiefs with 13 carries for only 35 yards. But the Dolphins, after the first quarter and those couple of turnovers early by Mahomes, were trailing by multiple scores for most of that game. So the Dolphins were throwing the football and not looking to run. But against the Pats this week, that just allowed a massive performance to Cam Akers. I think Washington, even not being the most highly coveted running back and a super talented guy, I think has the opportunity against a very soft New England run defense to put up nice fantasy numbers as a stream in some very big fantasy games. And then at my number 4 spot, I've got Jared Goff, and every time I decide to talk about him here, I shake my head and wonder why PlayerProfiler.com has that as his image for him here on the website. But nonetheless, Jared Goff is a top 12 guy for me down the stretch, and a guy I think should be started in fantasy lineups here. I really like the schedule. Week 14, a very modest 14.5 points against the Patriots, but that was a game when the run game was the primary factor in production point offensively, and that's just what was working for him. I mean, Robert Woods was pretty locked up by Gilmore all night, so Goff had to rely on the run game, but the schedule is very nice here. The Jets in Week 15, I think, can be exploited. Those talented wide receivers on the edge, and even those 2 tight ends are very productive players, or at least can be in that matchup, and so I think that is an exploitable matchup there. And then Week 16, they travel to the Seahawks, and I think that that's a game that the Rams just match up well offensively and defensively. Goff threw for over 300 yards in that game, I believe, and he just wasn't able to find the end zone, which was really the killer of his fantasy production there. And then Week 17, he's got the Cardinals, an average defense that he did okay against earlier on in the season. So Goff is definitely a starting level player, a low-end one at that, but a guy who deserves consideration. I'd go out and add him if you're needy at the quarterback spot because this guy can provide the stability that is needed to go out and win fantasy championships. A lot of quarterbacks on my list this week, but at my number 5 spot, I've got Tua Tagovailoa of the Miami Dolphins. And Tua played very well against the Chiefs here in Week 14. 27 fantasy points, 316 yards passing, and 3 total touchdowns for the rookie. The Chiefs are obviously more of an offensive-minded football team, but those guys also have an underrated defense. So I'm very impressed with Tua's numbers this week, and I have one game circled on the schedule here that I would like to use Tua in. This week against the Pats, I would approach him with some caution. One of the things I've talked about here on the channel is how Bill Belichick plays very good defense against young rookie and second-year quarterbacks, and I said to stay away from Justin Herbert earlier on this season, and he ended up having a 4-point outing against that team. So Tua, a risky play this week in Week 15, but Week 16, the championship game, I think he is a high-level stream player at Las Vegas to play the Raiders. That defense is on the ropes. They've been struggling, and offensive passing games have been lighting them up here as of late. Between Devontae Parker and Mike Gesicki, who is emerging as a star on that offense, I think Tua has a very nice ceiling and a very steady floor here. So like I said, stash him away on your bench. Week 16, this guy could have some really nice value and go out there and be a staple in championship lineups. All right, and then before I hop out of here, I wanted to talk about a couple of defensive units that I think can be very big contributors to championship teams. And the first group is the Miami Dolphins, obviously led in that secondary by the guy up on the screen here. Xavier Howard is having himself one heck of a year and has got a handful of picks, and that pick against Patrick Mahomes guarding Tyreek Hill one-on-one was highly impressive. If you guys haven't seen that clip, go look it up on YouTube. It's a great clip. It was Beckham-esque. It was a one-hander, absolutely sensational grab. But Miami right now is the defense number 6 in fantasy and only rostered in 64.1% of leagues. 4 turnovers against the Chiefs this week. And then Week 15, they've got the Patriots offense, a very, very poor group. I mean, Cam Newton seems to struggle to throw for 65 yards, and he throws picks every game. So for a ball-hawking unit like the Dolphins, they are going to have a field day against that mess of an offense. And then Week 16, they've got the Raiders, a group that is also struggling right now, and without Josh Jacobs giving them consistent numbers due to that ankle sprain to no fault of his own, they're really struggling without a run game. And then when you look at Week 17, they've got the Bills. Josh Allen obviously has a highly elite arm talent, but he is a little bit prone to throwing some turnovers. So Xavier Howard, I think, in that group can force some turnovers here down the stretch, get some timely picks, and even some defensive touchdowns here. They've been a highly productive group all season long, and I think continue the success here down the stretch of the playoffs. And then the other group I wanted to look at here is Chase Young's Washington football team defense. And this is a group with a highly elite front seven. That D-line is loaded with top picks and very, very productive pass rushers. I mean, these guys get sacks, and they have 3 touchdowns in their last 3 games. They've got Seattle in Week 15, which if you're thinking Russell Wilson, that offense is going to blow those guys apart. Russ Wilson has been turning the football over lately, and that line is not pass protecting very well. I think these guys will get home and provide a safe floor with those sack counts. And then Carolina in Week 16, that is a team that is good offensively in streaks, but I think this Washington football team defense is good enough to take advantage of them and force some turnovers. So Washington, another team I like a lot here down the stretch. I think they've got a safe floor and a nice ceiling as a defensive unit weeks 15 through 17. Those are my top 5 must-add players for Week 15 NFL action. If you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel and turn that bell on so you guys are notified whenever I come out with a new video or go live for a fancy Q&A. So, as always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, go down in the comment section and put those down there, and I will do my best to get back to as many of you as possible, which is usually all of you guys within the first couple of days of me posting that video. So, as always, thank you guys so much again, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.